I'd like to welcome you guys here, and thank you very much for coming. And I apologize that I'm late, but I was in Piasaw. We had the JFL football game today, and so just jumped in the truck as soon as that thing was over, and I got here as quick as I could. But I do appreciate all of you coming here, and what we're trying to accomplish here. I'm representing the Pana Sports Foundation, and we're a group of individuals, okay, that own Tanner Park here in town. You guys would know it by the Tanner Drive-In Theater Grounds. We've converted that into a sports complex, a couple baseball diamonds, soccer field. It's also used as a football field. But what we're trying to do is further the sports of baseball, football, basketball, any of the sports in Pana here. And we're trying to feature different short sport stories, issues on certain teams, and it only felt, I really felt obligated to the fact that you guys being the only undefeated football team that Pana's ever had, that we needed to get you guys together and get some of your stories and just hear some of the things that you remember back, and we'll talk about some of today's teams, something that, but really it's going to be, when we've done these types of things, I did this with some of the old baseball players and softball players. I've done it with Carroll Schramm. We've done it with the Pana and Taylorville basketball teams that went on that 11-10 game. It was a double overtime game win in 1970. I don't know if you guys remember any of that, but we even did a special on that. What we want to do is take the stuff from here. Okay, we're going to put it in DVD, and by the way, I will, as long as I have your addresses, and I think I do, because I sent a lot of you guys addresses, but you might want to leave them with me before you leave today. And I will send you a copy of this DVD once I convert it from the camera to the DVD. From there, we're going to put it on the Pana Sports Foundation website. It's really a stagnant website at this point, and I just need to have a little time to get into it or get somebody to get it working a little better for me. But it just takes time, and I got a lot of irons in the fire, so it's tough to always get things going. But anyhow, I think what we need to do is start with you guys and just if you could tell me your names, what positions you played when we played, and Jack, we can start with you.
I'm Jack Epley. I played left end. I played on offense and defense, both sides.
You went on to college and played too, didn't you?
What?
You went on to college at...
Only went 1 year at college.
And where was that at?
Comes from Colorado, called Western State.
Western State. Okay. Next up.
I'm D.G. Schumacher, but these guys all knew me as Deadeye. Now, I didn't play, so I'm in a unique position here, and I've always felt honored that the players would want to include me. I was the manager. But it was a great football team. There's no question about it.
I got to ask, where did Deadeye come from?
Dedrick.
It came from, my given name is Dedrick, and Morris Hill, who ran a heating and plumbing business, christened me Deadeye.
NA6.
Dead-eyed Dick from Possum Crest. Well, that's something that not very many people know.
They will now. They will now. Okay, Ron.
I'm Ron Miles. I played right guard. I played both offense and defense.
Okay.
And I'm Joe Rayo. I played tackle. I don't know whether it was right or left. Whatever was out there, that is what we did. But anyway, I played offense and defense also.
He had to be took to his position.
And I bet you never jumped off sides either.
I never jumped offside.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. And the reason I say that is because yesterday he shows up, thought the game was yesterday, so he jumped early yesterday. Or not the game, but this session.
I was getting some pretty damn lousy. Anyway, that's water over the dam, and here we are.
All right.
I'm Don Klukas. I was reserved. I was part of the meet that they worked over. This guy ran over me so bad I still hurt today.
He was bad at that.
Well, I tell you what, I think that's, I coached here at Pana for, well, going on, well, if you count the JFL stuff, it's going on 28 years. But you know, I think the people like you, Don, that you called them the meat squad, okay, and I've heard it called a lot of different other things. Now we call it the lemon heads because we put yellow bonnets on them to tell them the difference. But those people are unsung heroes. You really are. And, you know, because without you and without those people, you can't practice, you can't scrimmage. Your only scrimmage then would be game time. So that's always, whenever I meet up with people like that, and some of the kids that we had in those 28 years that I've had, just great kids, and appreciate the heck out of them. So.
Absolutely. You were Eagles too. All Eagles.
Okay.
I'm Jim Bevry. I played right halfback and defensive backfield.
And Jim and Joe both came and talked to, when I was head coach of the varsity program, we always had somebody from past Pana teams, or a teacher, or somebody that was affiliated with the Pana program come back and talk. And Joe and Jim both graced us with that, and I appreciate the fact that you did that. And it was, I think the kids got a lot out of it. Okay.
I'm Dutch Metzger, Roger Metzger. I played mostly second team. I try to tell these guys that I filled in wherever they needed me, but I played mostly defense.
Did you play some quarterback too, or no?
I played quarterback too.
Okay. Quarterback on the practice squad is not the best place to play all the time either, is it?
That's where I was.
You mentioned Dutch Metzger. Okay, you said they called you Dutch. But you're related.
You guys called me Dutch.
A lot of the other. There's another Dutch Metzger in town though too, right?
I'm sorry?
Don Metzger.
Yeah.
They call him Dutch.
No, they called Don Dutch.
You guys never had a arm wrestling match over that name, did you?
Dutch Metzger that lived in the Pain at that time. But
Really?
He got out.
Three's a crowd, huh? Okay.
I'm P.D. Lees, and I played the opposite end, but we're sitting wrong right, because you should be over here and me over there.
No, I think
So you
Joe's the one that did this.
Oh, okay.
you were the left end and he was the right end. How tall were you guys?
I know he was there because I remember one game we played in that Holland threw a pass. I was trying to hold off the Russian tackle, and the pass bounced off of my shoulder. You caught it and ran it in for a touchdown. And I've thought all these years that was probably illegal touching. I don't know why. Maybe I was in an illegal position when that ball hit.
He and I blocked on the right side. He was the right end.
All right, well, he was there, okay?
I don't think it, unless the rules have changed, I don't think it was illegal touching as long as you didn't
Our memories are really good.
touch it by mistake. So, PD and Jack, how tall were you guys when you were in high school?
About from 6'4", I was 6'3", and I think Petey was 6'4", a little taller.
We killed for
6'4", both of them.
back in 2015. I think we had you guys back and had a team from 65 come back to talk to, or not to talk to us, but we honored you at one of the games out here. If you guys remember that, appreciated that. And I thought these guys, and that was the 2015 team. So we're always saying in those 5-year increments. You guys were 55, then it was 65 was there. 2015 was, they finished up an undefeated regular season and then won 2 games into the playoffs, but they didn't finish up undefeated. And we had a young man on that team, his name was Dan Franklin, that remind me of you guys, okay? And Dan was a great leader for us. And
When we played, they didn't have a state tournament like you guys have now. You know, they didn't have a state playoff or anything like that. That was it.
okay, well, in saying that, you know, some of the things, and I'm gonna, you guys have, if you've got a special story you want to share, please say it, okay, and let me know, and I'll try and facilitate some of this. But one of the things that I want to know from you guys is, you know, what do you feel is one of the big changes that are good changes today, or bad changes, I don't care, in football from when you played till today's game? Because, you know, there are times I hear you guys say, okay, well, they're much bigger and faster than us then. Well, the training regiments are different, a little more sophisticated today, okay? But I can tell you, after shaking hands with you guys and that type of thing, you guys are some pretty stout people. So I don't think that team in 55 takes a backseat to any team around. And but Jack, do you have any idea what?
Well, we never had a weight room or anything like that. I was just a farm kid. I bought bales during the summer. We only did take a dime. And most of the guys worked and did something that nowadays you can't hardly get a kid to buck bale.
No.
But we did it for $1 an hour, maybe 75 cents an hour, $1.50 was a heck of a good pay for bucking bales all day long. So, of course, $1.50 probably buy what 10 does now, but that's what they want now, the kids. They got.
Every one of us had a job. We was farm boys, we worked with bale hay, like Jack said, we milked cows, cut weeds out of beans, whatever, we was still, I mean,
You ask kids to mow grass today, and guess what they're going to ask? You got a rider? Yeah, that type of thing. But there's some good kids out here, and we got a lot of good kids in Pana. We sure do. Deadeye. You don't mind me calling you Deadeye, right?
Not at all.
What about you? Anything that?
I don't think that very many changes are for the good. Maybe you heard most of these guys played both offense and defense. And maybe it's a good thing that now you're one or the other mostly, because it gives other promising kids a chance to play more. And I think that there probably are very few high school football teams as well coordinated as this. And one thing that I would say, there probably aren't very many football coaches as good as Charlie Fatchett.
Charlie seemed to be the name that whenever you talk about Pana coaches, it's that you always hear about Charlie Fatchett.
He was a great man.
Is it Fatchett? Fatchett, right? Fatchett was his name. Fatchett. Yep.
FATC.
And he was he an industrial arts teacher?
Yeah.
Is that what he did?
Yes, he was.
And I heard he would get down on the line and go against you guys at a time or two.
Not against me, but I'd run.
He's the one who made that plaque over in the high school, that board, the names.
Oh yeah, okay,
He made that.
okay.
Put all the names on it.
Well, there's been, some other big names, good names that come out of Pana football, but that one is one that is always going to be there. And I think Charlie was a really, really good coach, really respected. I can tell it by even talking with you guys. Ron, you have anything that you think, any improvements or things that you think have changed the game since you played?
I coached JFL for a few years. It amazed me how far the game had transferred from the way we played. Technology had moved ahead. We didn't have a playbook. What we had, 2 plays for each one of you guys.
Oh, they were easy. They were easy.
They just told you block right or block left, Ron. You block right or block left.
There wasn't any complicated stuff.
Right.
We didn't know what
We didn't have wide
receivers were.
We didn't have wide receivers.
We kept it simple, right or left.
2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole.
But when it's all over,
Yeah.
you gotta have technology, and you gotta have fundamentals. You gotta be able to block, you gotta be able to tackle.
And run.
Well, the kids now, from how we tackle, I never did have my head down when I tackled nobody. I always thought myself when I played I was a pretty damn good tackler.
He was.
I always hit down here. I never wrapped somebody up and tried to bulldog me.
Yeah.
You might have. I saw this man, this is he probably doesn't remember this, but he was the first person that I ever saw grab an opponent's face mask, plant his foot substantially into the turf, and wheel that kid around the body. And I mean, his legs were flailing, and he was really loving it.
Well, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah,
Hey, but
The reason I don't remember, we didn't have those things.
we didn't, but this kid did. He had a handle on his head.
and it wasn't legal. It wasn't illegal at that time. That was legal. And today.
Broken his neck or ripped his head off, but it wasn't illegal. That might might be a
What
difference.
game was that?
I don't remember.
You know, well,
I don't
you,
remember what game. If we had the films, we'd see that.
you know, the great, I personally, yeah, I love all sports. I love baseball too, and played a lot of softball and that type of stuff, and I'm sure you guys played some other ones too. But I think football is the number one sport for me, because I think it's the greatest life lesson sport that you have out there. And because when you're out there, you don't win every battle that you get into in life or on that football field. And how many times do you want to get up and try and win that war? And you know, and that's why I think football is such a great game, because it teaches you you got to overcome adversity, okay, and you got to stick to it, and you also have to have some dedication, some pride, okay, and it's a great game. When oh gosh, Ron, you were talking about tackling. I know today the sport of football is under a lot of attack. Well, a lot of people are wanting, hey, we don't want football anymore. And this year in Litchfield, a community of 7,000 people, they started the season thinking, we're not going to have a football team this year, because they didn't have enough kids come out to play. 7,000 people in that community, and they can't get more than 17 kids. That's what they got in their program, 70 kids. A lot of them are freshmen, and they run out and have to play varsity programs each week now until they can get that program reignited. But some of the things, and I think the community of Litchfield, they had a young man that got killed one year from a football injury, hurt his neck, and I think since then, you know, it's been tough for football over there. But there's a lot of people though that are, Ron, we're talking about keeping your head up. And that's the only way I've ever known to tackle is, hey, keep your head up. And when I graduated high school, I was 145 pounds. 150 pounds. I was not going to run in to a kid from Vandalia, Robin Bone, he's 200 pounds, and put my face mask here and drive him back. Physics wouldn't allow me to do that. So I had to tackle low too. And today we teach a lot of low tackling, and it's funny, we teach more like rugby tackling, where instead of, we always taught, get that head out in front of that person, and that's where you take a lot of punishment. Now we're teaching, get that head back behind them. And I remember when I first started coaching, we'd make fun of kids for doing that, you know, for not make fun of them, but we'd call them down for, hey, don't get your head back behind them like that. You got to get your head across them. Jack, I'm sorry.
I think this day and age is saying, like Ron says, in tackling. But I think they would have a heck of a lot less concussions on people if they didn't have face masks, pro wallet, because they're using that helmet as a spear.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about, you know, back when we was kids, you didn't want a broken nose, you didn't want teeth knocked out, so you tried to keep your, like you say, keep your head up and tackle right or whatever. But now everybody got them, they just use that head as a battering ram.
Yeah.
And then they get a concussion. And all that football's bad. I think if they took them out, them helmets off. You know, the old time players, pros, they didn't have no teeth up there. They got them all knocked out. That's all fine and dandy, but they didn't have a concussion.
Right.
You know,
We did have helmets.
Well,
Oh, yeah, we had helmets.
well, things are, yeah, I've got some pictures of you guys with helmets. Another thing that I wanted to ask you while I had you here is, as I'm looking through the yearbooks and stuff like that, I always thought when I was in, back in, it would have been the mid to, early to mid 70s when I was in high school, we always had these jerseys. They were an orange and a blue type stuff over here. And I noticed that you guys wore those a lot.
Gorgeous.
Okay?
Flash, yeah, they were.
Was
Satin.
Mr. Anderson the athletic director then?
No, I don't know who that is.
Andy Anderson.
He was. I heard a story, and he's notorious for whenever he'd order jerseys. It didn't matter if Jack had 76 last year. He'd order jerseys and number them from 1 through 50 or 1 through 40. Now, how many ever jerseys he had? And I was noticing all those low numbers across the board there as I was looking through those pictures. So it was interesting. But I always wondered, when did you guys get those jerseys? Okay. All right. So now I know where they came from. And did you have the pants that had blue on the front, orange on the back, or something like that? Okay.
Put pads and everything.
Those are sweet.
But we look good, that's what that.
But you played good too. Joe, what do you think as far as
Well, the first thing that reminds me of the changes that have been made is what Hoop Miles' attitude is about how he tackled. And I'm gonna tell you right now, he tackled in any way he wanted. If he could get a hold of a guy's shirt and pull him down by the neck, he'd do that. He'd pull a guy down he'd tackle anyway. He was not what you call a friendly tackler. In fact, he was tough as hell. And I seen Rita over here, her husband was Jim Wilson, he was just the same. Two tough guards, I tell you, the best one. They were good. Anyway.
an intimidator? That's
No, they weren't intimidating,
no.
but they were tough. Jim one time was out there, and back in the olden days, we had aluminum cleats.
Wow.
So when we walked on concrete, these things would have a burr on them, you know, at the bottom. Anyway, somebody stepped on Jim's hand one day, not our guy, it was another team's guy, and it skinned him from here to here. Now, this was at a game, so we're looking at his wound here, and all we could see was these white tendons sticking out. And he's in a great deal of pain. It was not an easy injury for him. But they hauled him off the field, and it was about 3 plays later.
Here you go.
They bring him back, and he's got a big piece of sponge on him, like that, his hand all bundled up. I will say this, he only lasted one more play. Because somehow somebody jarred that hand, and he had to quit. But he was tough. He wanted to play, there's no question about it.
You sound like Ty Cobb invented those spikes, those aluminum cleated spikes.
Oh, did he? These were aluminum cleats, and they were.
Jim was a much nicer guy than Ty Cobb.
Yeah, they were. But I'm saying, he was just there for the action. He was ready to go. He was tough. So we miss him too. We don't miss this guy. Yeah, he was awful. He was a mean man.
Wow.
He was on our side.
A good guy.
But he wasn't a guy who took a lot of pity on the guy across the line. Were you?
Well, he's got a
Kiss up to it.
Oh, I saw you kiss a couple of guys.
he's got a son that hits a golf ball about as far as I can see anybody hit it.
You got a son golfer?
Oh, yeah.
Did he play football?
No.
Then it don't matter.
He had other things to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. See, that's what's happening.
He had a grandson that played was pretty good too.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Klukas.
Pete wants to say.
Pete, you had one?
Yeah, the thing that I remember is the tradition of Pana High School football. It was a football school, you know, more than another sport. And I can remember as a kid, I'd go to the football games when I was in grade school, and we'd have our own football game. We wouldn't be watching them, we'd be out playing in the practice field. And we had guys that, you know, like the team, I think it was in 55, that went all the way through the season, beat Lincoln of East St. Louis, and went up to Taylorville, and they got beat by Taylorville, and they shouldn't have. They were favored to win. And I know from Island's sake that particular year, our senior year, when we came down to the Taylorville game, I think every one of us knew that the undefeated Untied team lost it by getting beat by Taylorville. And I think that gave us an extra impetus to win against Taylorville, and we did. And I think it was as much a credit to that team of 55 as it was to us, because they gave us the incentive. When you
52.
52.
50,
52.
okay, 52.
We were 55.
Okay, sorry. I'm this close to losing it all. Well, I'm 80 years old now.
You all are.
He's talking about that Taylorville game, and I remember at halftime it was 0-0, and we were knocking each other back and forth like you wouldn't believe.
In a
I mean,
buzz.
there was a lot of blood rolling around in that game at that time, and Coach called an end run right here, the first touchdown, and he scored the second touchdown, and we Taylorville 13-0.
So an end run, tell me what the end run was. Was it a halfback or was it with you? The end coming back around and getting?
The quarterback took the ball,
I faced through the middle
handed
like
it,
this,
the end came
and
around.
he came around the end.
And the quarterback handed it to the end, or handed it to a halfback then to the end?
No, he
Hand it to the end.
He would fake to
Handoff
me,
like I
he
was
would fake to
running.
me going like a handoff to a guy. Hand it to Petey going around that end, that way, and hit this guy's
The
nose,
opposite end, yeah.
and he'd go around that way like that and score. He scored.
And those guys on the left side, they just pushed everybody
Caved in everybody.
forward. And I didn't even, nobody touched me. I mean, it wasn't any big deal for me. I didn't do anything.
But he scored 2 that game.
Well, that's kind of the, today they have a play like that. I believe they call it a jet sweep, but they start the guy, you probably were on the line of scrimmage. They'll
It was
start a guy off the
tradition
line of scrimmage.
That I think helped us because, you know, guys like Larry Spinner, you know, when we were freshmen, he was a senior.
Yeah.
And he was all-state, and he was one tough ball player. You know, and they had a whole bunch of those kinds of guys, you know. Jim Klein played on that team.
Joe LaGrew,
Joe
he was also all-state.
Merriman,
Yeah, Rod Merriman.
you know.
Joe LaGrew.
Yeah, Joe
Don
LaGrew
Waller.
was,
Don
those
Waller.
guys, we really looked up to them. They were undefeated till Taylorville. And we ended up, I think because of them, that we ended up undefeated.
I've seen that a lot over the years with teams learning from the year before them. That 2015 team, the team before them, they were the first team in 7 years that didn't make the playoffs in Pana. And that group of seniors came along, and they didn't want that to happen to them. And, you know, and it really carried them through the season. Did a nice job with that. Okay, Dutch, you got anything you think is
I'd
a...
like to say something for Os Bland. Os was probably the third largest guy on our team, if not the biggest. But he didn't play offense. He didn't play defense. He played offense only. He was our center, and the coach would take him out on defensive because he was afraid he'd get his hands hurt, and they wouldn't be able to snap the ball. So I subbed for Os quite often.
Os, O-S?
Os Bland.
Os Bland. Merrill Bland, okay.
Don't call him Austin, don't write it down.
Oh, he did play well.
There's another Ross Bland that was, he was big.
I remember a time when he was being coached from, we were playing Shelbyville. And Shelbyville had this guy in the center with about
325.
Larry Cheney.
300 pounds. and about
320.
6
That's
foot
Cheney,
5, something like that. And Osh looked at the coach and said, how am I going to block that guy?
Not a problem.
And coach looked at him and said, look at his knees. They're no bigger than yours.
He was
And
he was a
that
monster.
night he had him on the ground all the time. That guy left the field almost crying. Remember that?
I don't remember Larry Cheney as being much of a threat.
Cheney, we
He was
played-
big.
Well, he's big. It was.
I think the game we played, the 5 teams, I think were undefeated when we met them. They were.
Yeah, they were.
If you remember the night we played
Shelbyville had
Shelbyville,
They had a
Thatcher
300
brought
pounder
in
and a
Austin
275.
Yeah.
we had to go to a set of man like.
300, that's enormous in those days.
6'6",
Wasn't it?
300 pounds.
That's enormous.
Austin. I asked Sauce how he's going to take care of him or he's blocking him. I think he said, his breast hung out under his shoulder pads. And he got in there and he started grabbing his twisting. That's all the guy was doing, just standing there.
Technique,
Yeah.
technique.
I have a sad story about that big guy.
Larry Cheney.
In a junior varsity game, I was supposed to block him. And he ran over me and fell on me, and my knee, what's those things that were under?
Thigh pads.
Thigh pads were reversed. When he rolled over me, I thought he was gonna kill me.
Is that the Cheney guy you mean, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was 300 pounds. I was about 140.
Yeah, he was just a giant.
Now, is Merrill, you talk about Merrill Bland, is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I sent a letter to him,
Charles.
okay, and it came back that it was undeliverable, so I couldn't, it was in Georgia, I think, is where I sent it to.
Well, no, he's still around.
He's Charles.
Charleston?
And he would be
Well,
very
outside
interested
Charles.
to be here today. Merrill.
Was he a senior with you guys, or a junior? Senior? Okay.
And his brother was also the senior.
Last time I saw him, he wasn't too good at health.
No, he's more frail than he ever was. There's no question about that. But he's still tough.
Merrill and Jerry were about 3 years apart in age, but they were in the same class all through school.
Because
Well,
Jerry
now-
went to school when he was about 4.
When Merrill went to school, his little brother was following him all the time. They kept sending him back home, and he kept getting work every day, following him all the time. So they just said, okay, you go ahead, and they were in the same class.
He started at country
2 years
school.
apart.
Graduated in Dot, they started at South School.
How many seniors did you guys have on the team?
Pardon?
How many seniors did you have on the team when you guys,
We had, I don't know, quite a few.
just 11?
Doug says there were 11.
Jerry Klein, 11.
Well,
Klein and
I'll
Jake
tell you
Wolf
just-
were-
I've got-
They were not seniors.
Okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13 seniors,
Including Dead
Counting it
okay?
Yeah, better not count me and making it even better number than 13.
We'll count you 2 then,
Well, that was,
12 of them letters, and then there were Dead
You know,
Then I was their manager.
and no wonder you guys had to play both ways. And I always thought it was great when we had 18, 19, 20 seniors. And I always thought, if you got 20 seniors on a football team, you're going to be pretty darn competitive. And because it's your last year. You know, I mean, it's the last year. There is no more football play after that, unless some of you are going on to college. But probably, what, 1% of the kids we have go on and play college football and play after seniors.
I think all of us sitting
You
here
speak about college.
wanted to play both ways.
You speak about college
You must sit
football.
there for defense, right?
Yeah, well, I've been up.
Well, we played,
You speak about college football.
kickoff
We
team
had,
too. We had really 11. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, all 11 played all 3 phases, offense, defense, and the kicking team.
But just talk about college football, we got the Milliken Wesleyan game, we played in Decatur, and on Decatur's team, they had Joe Rahill, his brother, and Petey Lee, and Jake Wolf, and on the Wesleyan side was Holloman, Lekas, and myself. There were 3 players from Payne on one side and 3 players from Payne on the other side. And we knocked heads the whole game, just battered each other crazy, and it wound up nothing to nothing.
Nothing to nothing. Wow.
Yeah, and that was a big disappointment for the kids from Milliken because we were supposed to kick their butt.
Well, you still have that Wesleyan and Milliken rivalry, don't you?
No, I suppose that you, I don't know. It wasn't anything that was embedded in bloodshed or anything like
I
that.
Joe a couple times.
But
I hit you a couple times too. And I remember, one of my impressive things in that game was, you know, I was low and he was going over myself. And I remember looking up and seeing him legs. He was like a pony out there, you know, just clomping through there. And I said, no wonder he was pretty good. He never stops running, even when he's in the air.
so, who's your starting quarterback on that group? Holloman, and he's passed away.
Yes, he has.
Okay, and who are your halfbacks?
Jake Wolf, and our fullback was Jerry Klein.
Okay, and did you have more than one person in the backfield, more than 2 people, or did you use 3? Is there another halfback?
Yeah, there was a couple of younger guys, Bill Hatfield.
That's
Mostly the straight T formation.
you ready to T formation? Okay,
T formation.
so you had a fullback and 2 halfbacks on each side.
We would do short punt
We ran a
sometimes.
short punt against Taylorville. In our junior year, we ran that against Taylorville. We were 4 touchdowns underdogs, and we beat them by 2.
Explain the short punt. Is that a quick kick type deal, or?
The quarterback stands, receives the ball like short punt now.
Okay,
And then there would be a spinner back, you know, they would spin and hand it off.
uh-huh.
That's the old way, and you know, before the regular T formation, that was older. I mean, that was in the 30s and 40s.
But isn't it funny? I mean, and you're talking about the quarterback was not behind the center?
No,
No.
Okay.
Off the left.
Isn't it funny that nowadays that's what today we in our 6th grade game we're running plays, we're snapping to the quarterback, it's run plays, we're pulling people across, and but so the game really it's kind of circled back around really, okay, because you don't see as many. I formation teams out there that are just, let's get the guy under the center, under the ball, and let's, just tough it out and 10 yards and a cloud of dust type deal. And, you get some of these smaller teams like that are smaller towns, and that spread formation like that, and that shotgun formation makes them a lot more competitive.
One of the things that Fatchett, I remember him teaching, was if every man does his job and takes care of the defense, it's a touchdown.
Yep.
Every play's a touchdown. It's designed to be a touchdown.
Yeah, every play was designed, and if you knocked your guy down, he got up, you knocked him again.
Yeah.
He did.
Yep.
That's something I've seen, what I've watched kids play, in Pana here, where, but this play going to the left, the right-hand side, they had to get down there where we played. You had to get the halfback or the safety or something like that. You had a man downfield, you had to get. And if you got it, then like you said, it play went good. But now the kids, they just get through the line, stand up and look, see, I hope he makes it all right.
Yeah, he's got the ball.
To me, I've watched that, and a lot of high school kids, but we had to know the play, and we had to know what man we had to get. That was kind of like a playbook, I guess, but you had to know what man you had to get.
Sure.
You never stopped running after him until you got him down, somebody.
You had to know the play. I mean, he called you out if you didn't know a play, real quick.
I had that happen once.
Do you guys have any special stories? And one I want to maybe rekindle from somebody, because somebody told me this story, and it was involving Jack here, where on a kickoff or something like that, where he dived into a pile of people and.
The whole team he took down.
Can
On
you-
the kickoff.
Okay.
He was awesome. We had, I think there might have been 6 guys, when they kicked off, we kicked off. They all went into a huddle down there, and they were gonna go running 9 different directions, so you didn't know who had that.
A bloomin' onion,
ball,
okay.
huh?
We call it a bloomin' onion today.
As they were in this huddle, the Trojan horse come flying down there, and I think he went airborne about 6 feet, 6 yards from him, and landed right in the middle of him, and it collapsed like a building, the whole thing. That was a magnificent play.
Makes it sound pretty good.
It was damn
It
good.
was funny because I jumped up and I'm right over, I'm looking at
You
him,
landed
standing
right
down there
there.
passing that ball around, and I happened to look up like, oh my God.
I think he learned that move from coon hunting. I think you learned that move from coon hunting.
Well, I don't know.
When the dogs would all jump in on the coon.
Well, I got one for him too, but we played with what, Kincaid? Yeah, Kincaid.
In the rain.
I went through and I almost blocked the kick, but here he come and he hit my shoulder. Okay, well, he blocked the kick. I caught the ball and scored a touchdown.
Well,
And he told me after, boy, you sure robbed me.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I do remember you standing there holding the ball,
You pushed me, you said,
run, run.
oh, yeah, he wasn't running, but he just standing.
He never did get
What
What do I
Oh,
do
yeah.
with this?
I remember you did that in the rain. I remember Holman almost drowned.
Yeah.
It rained
I
after,
remember
the day it
somebody-
started raining in the morning.
He got tackled, he got pushed down on the pile up and what have you. By the end, time they piled up, our quarterback, Holman almost drowned. Comes up.
Is that the Litchfield game?
No,
Kincaid.
Well, I remember one game where somebody on the other team had one of those bars, and somebody hit him, and he drove his head into the mud, and the bar was sticking him, He's sitting there trying to pull out. I mean, he could have smothered down there from mud smothered.
Any other special stories you guys remember from back in that time that special plays? I know there's a lot.
Probably can't repeat.
Well, one thing that the year we were seniors, that was the first year that Charlie Fatchett came to be the coach. That was the year. Jack Klosterman had been football and basketball coach until that time. And the coach before that was Metzger. That Coach Metzger was
Ewald?
before we got there. Ewald Metzger. Then Thatcher came in, and that's the first time that then Klosterman became the basketball coach, and Thatcher became the football coach. And they both had graduated from Southeast Missouri. They played together, and I think that Klosterman was instrumental in getting Thatcher there.
Oh, probably was.
But Thatcher was a old farm boy. And
Yeah.
he had a different language than Klosterman.
But,
Very colorful.
but he advised all of us to start with it. He didn't want us out there swearing. He said, now you have to maybe forgive me a little bit because in the summer, I do work with construction crews and so forth and so on. Maybe my language is not always as sweet as it ought to be. But he was a good guy, great guy. I tell you, he was an inspiration in that Taylorville game too. I don't know if you guys remember this, the last practice that we had. He gave us an inspirational talk. He said, I want you boys to know you're 10-0 or whatever we were at that time. He says, and you go out there on this last game, and if you win this last game, you got bragging rights that you can tell anybody that you could have beat any team that ever existed, and nobody could prove the difference. You don't have to play anymore. So it was the kind of world that was a good one for us.
Yeah, coaching has changed a little bit since then. I mean, as far as what coaches can do, what they can't do, what they can say, and that type of thing. That's for sure. Some of the stuff is for the better.
How many guys here played multiple sports?
It's,
No wonder me.
basketball, football,
I ended up with
Track,
10
yeah.
letters.
Baseball,
Because I played
track.
football, basketball.
We played baseball, too. Ken played baseball, too.
Yeah, he was a good baseball player.
Yeah, and kids today want to, some of them want to just, hey, I want to play football and that's it, and I'll work out on the weights and things like that. But I really always like to see kids doing everything. I really think that your skill position people on football, when people go ends, the halfbacks, those types of people, I think baseball is great for those types of people because of the hand-eye coordination, and especially center fielders and shortstops and those types of people that, I think baseball helps them out. But you don't see a lot of kids doing a lot of crossing over and playing a lot of, there's some, and some of your better athletes do.
There's some reason for that, and that is that all of us weren't talented that way. We'd go out for basketball, but after the third session, give it a pass. You're not going to make it.
If, back in the day, who are you guys as heroes? I mean, as far as, today I can say, I start to talk about kids that are guys, football players, and my heroes. Walter Payton, my favorite football player. Heck, I talk to the kids that I coach now, the sixth graders. They don't know who Walter Payton or Marcus Allen, those types of people are.
Runs real fast.
J.C. Caroline.
So,
J.C. Caroline.
Jack, who'd be your favorite football player that you've ever seen?
Well, probably Butkus, I like him.
Okay.
He wasn't when we were kids.
He wasn't our age.
He was
King Wayne
younger than us.
Was he?
Yeah, but still.
He probably was admiring you, trying to emulate you, Jack.
Every year,
He was a favorite, no question.
the first game that University of Illinois had, they would always load up a bus of us guys, and we'd get to go for free to see the first game. And one of the memories that I have was when University of Illinois had Mr. Outside and Mr. Inside. J.C. Caroline.
Mickey Bates.
And Mickey Bates. And that's who I remember from.
Yeah.
They had a heck of a team, one of those guys. And of course, J.C. Caroline went on to play for the Packers. Defense, he was a defense.
Yeah, he did play for
He also coached at Pana High School.
the. You can tell the Packer fan.
Did you guys?
Again, I'm old. I don't
Hey, you know what
know
though?
he played.
Yeah,
One
but
player
For
from
the
that game,
club.
and it was a remarkable thing, because somebody grabbed him by the jersey, and the jersey ripped off.
Oh, yeah. They had tearaway jerseys back. Then they outlawed them.
Yeah. But he ran another 40 or 50 yards, half naked.
That's good.
PD, this is for you, okay, since you're a Packer fan. You guys know Superman's colors are what? Superman, his colors, red and blue. I think they're green and yellow, and I think his name is Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, and I heard that Brett Favre say the same thing the other day. He said he didn't know why he had ever thought there was anything wrong with that guy.
I want to share a story that is not exactly related to Pana, but relates to a great football player, Roman Gabriel.
Oh boy, yeah.
Roman Gabriel happens to live in the same town I do, Little River, South Carolina, and I have become kind of sort of friends with him at the gym where we go. And he's talked about getting hit by one of these other guys, and Roman is telling a few months ago, he said he'd fallen out of a golf cart. He was kind of leaning right, and the guy went left, and he said, "Man," he said, "that felt like I'd been hit by Ray Nitschke." and of course, he had been hit by Ray Nitschke.
It's funny, Roman Gabriel was, he played some of his teammates, Deacon Jones and I think Marlon Olson and those types of people. He played with some pretty mean people.
Yes, he did.
That when he played for the Rams.
But
So.
those guys were making big money back then.
And he was also a great athlete at North Carolina State.
$500 contracts and things.
Was that North Carolina State, did you say? North Carolina State? I couldn't remember where he's from.
Three-sport athlete at North Carolina State.
Okay.
Roman Gabriel.
He also went and became a movie star.
Yes.
So is he your favorite football player then?
Well, this late in life, because I know him, I think he is. But all these guys are really my favorite football.
Man, he doesn't. Are you by any chance?
How's that?
By any chance, are you involved in politics at all?
Me?
Yeah, throwing out that
Yes, he is.
those compliments like that.
No, I am not involved in politics.
But he'd like-
All we're missing is a baby here for you to kiss. Kiss this baby. Ron, who's your favorite?
Oh,
Or do you have one?
I just like it. I just like the game. I don't really have a favorite player. If I did, it would be Mike Dickens. I really like what he reminded me a lot of Thatcher, you know?
Oh, okay.
Just no nonsense.
Yep.
But I'll watch anything. That's what I like the game.
When I was a kid, my favorite football players were people who were like Don Cully. And who else? Bill Bailey.
Don Call too.
Rudy Siegert, Rudy Siegert, and people like that.
Yeah.
We had a lot of, I consider them wonderful big men. Cully was probably about the size of Dutch.
Pardon?
I said Cully was probably about the size of Dutch, but I thought they were I thought they were all big guys.
And
Yeah.
they had, I remember they had.
Elmer
first after the
Vanderberg, you
war,
remember him?
It was after the war, I remember some of them got to wear tanker helmets.
Yeah.
You remember that?
That was an upgrade.
The other guys had, in fact,
Had
the first
pressures.
helmet I had was leather.
Oh, yeah.
And as a freshman,
Those floppy
they
leather
all.
The very first one I had as a freshman for a little while was in the bottom of the barrel. And it was this wide,
Smashed. Yeah.
dried leather. Working, and you put it on, and it would just scratch you up.
How many of your moms went up to the football coach and says, "Can you give Joey a different helmet?"
No.
There's a big change, I'm telling you guys right now.
I wouldn't.
I'm telling you right now. That's a big change.
My mom wouldn't even go, she'd say, stay at home and say the rosary, so I wouldn't get hurt.
My mother last game of the season, I walked off and she looked up and she said, "Thank God that's over."
Don, what about you? Who's your?
As far as favorite player in a long time, or?
Yeah.
I was in Denver when Elway was playing.
He's pretty special.
He was something else. He'd get a touchdown if he had to kill himself.
I think I saw him in one of his first games playing the Bears. they ran him all over the field. I said, this guy ain't never gonna be anything. But,
Boy, did you hit that on the that nail on the head, huh? Joe, did we get your player or no? Did you say who?
yeah, I said, the only people that I was in was those kids.
Okay.
Who were seniors in high
The
school.
upperclassmen.
When I was a sixth grader, you know.
And that's I remember that too. I remember the Terry Kleins and Jelly Russells and those types of guys.
We remember those guys.
Speaking,
Especially that 52 team. That was a good team to watch.
okay, Jim, how about you?
All these names are pretty nice from what I had, but I think probably I'd go with Jason Caroline.
Okay,
I like to watch him now.
Roger.
There was a man from, I can't remember his name, was from Hillsboro. Played fullback with Caroline and Bates.
Chucky Borio from Kincaid.
Say what?
Chucky Borio from Kincaid.
Maybe.
I remember Borio was Kincaid, that's the year I went to Rose Bowl.
It was black, I don't know if he was white or black.
Petey, you already said somebody, didn't you?
Well,
Did I come back around?
the high school players, you know, in that earlier area, like Don Cully and those guys, because we were grade school kids. But really, my favorite player was Stan Musial. You know,
Can't go wrong there.
you know, I even have it. My son got me an autographed baseball of his for Christmas one year. But Stan Musial was
I
my
hope you still have it.
favorite athlete. I didn't really have a favorite football player, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you can't go wrong with Stan Musial.
Can't go wrong.
No. So, well, I don't know at this point. Kind of running out a little bit of material, but I do. If any other stories that you guys would like to share, or any other topics, or something else, but it just flew right over the top of my head, and didn't.
I was thinking coming up here that this town was a great town to grow up in.
Yeah, it was.
And it's basically a farm community, a little bit of a bedroom community for Decatur and Springfield, but basically a farm community, and grew a lot of good people. A lot of good people came out of this town.
And there's a lot of good people in this town still, and I mean, I believe in it, and it's born and raised in Pana. You know, and you heard that the Walmart store is going to close down in October, but I think we got to think about that. Is it good or is it bad? You know, are we gonna, you know, somebody throws you some lemons, you make lemonade with it, and that's what we got to. We just got to figure out how do we work with that. Maybe some mom and pop stores will spring back up. Who knows?
It was a self-contained town. I mean, anything you needed, anything you wanted,
Mhm.
here.
There was probably 20 grocery stores when we were kids.
Oh, all the neighborhood grocery stores, amazing.
And then we had a big store downtown. We had the A&P, we had Kroger's, and the Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, where's that at?
That was downtown.
It's on Second
In
Street.
the high school.
It's on Second Street on the alley.
Where that music shop is.
Okay,
That was bought by Heisman.
that's what, you know,
Planters came out.
in doing this.
We moved it down by the high school.
In doing this type of stuff, I get I learn a lot more about the city of Pana, and there again too, that's just it's a community that, you know, obviously I'm in love with, and I just and you guys are too, and even though, you know, some of you aren't living here, you still have that pride and that you went to school here. PD talked about Pana being a football town. Well, I think Pana's kind of a football town anymore. We've got some good athletes, but you know, our football program has been on the rise for a while, and you know, this year they got beat pretty good last night, but they'll recover.
I think what the soccer field, soccer come on, and a lot of boys go out for soccer rather than worry about getting the concussion or something. The parents more or less push them that away. And there wasn't soccer, it wasn't just football.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to play sports, you played football. You didn't You don't have soccer, and you didn't have.
And I'm not against soccer, but one of the
I'm not
things is,
either, don't get me
but,
wrong,
but
I
how,
think that's where somebody like Litchfield, you know, they got 17 guys. The parents don't want to, I don't want that kid getting.
but actually with soccer, I think you're as big of a risk to get a concussion there. How many times you hit a ball with your head, you know, and that can't be real good.
That's true.
And I think there's more ankle, knee injuries in soccer than there is in football.
Especially women's soccer, their knees, that you just watch. And I don't know why, but girls' soccer is really hard on knees.
Yeah, and I think the whole sport is, because it's just, you're just always on them, running and cutting and that type of stuff. And there again too, Pele was this was the first soccer player I ever heard of, and he was a great soccer player. Beckham over in England, and those guys, and people love to go and watch people like that, and they're very talented individuals. They very are. But
You know, you talk about Pana having a lot of industries and what have you, and I remember when I graduated out of college, I came back here and taught for 2 years. And I used to go by the Amlin greenhouses out here. And they had the roses, you know, if they didn't meet their qualifications, they would take them and they were all packaged up and they would throw them away. Well, every Friday I go down there and get a dozen red roses. And my wife thought that was the greatest thing under the world until she found out where I was getting them.
wasn't costing you anything.
That's a good cause to die.
Hey, that was.
We used to go get them when we were kids,
Yeah.
out there sorting them, and when you get
I watched them load up.
and then take them down the neighborhood and sell them for a quarter.
The Rose Bowl.
A bouquet.
We had painted flowers here at Roses going to the Rose Bowl.
How many of you guys worked in the greenhouses?
And the Kentucky Derby.
Any of you?
How many of us what?
Any of you worked in the greenhouses when you were in school?
It was a hard job.
That was a hard.
It was. I worked a couple summers in the greenhouses there, and yeah, it was. It's a sticky job too.
I
Boy.
visited some greenhouses one time, and I remember Sam Hellman's dad with a great big hosing down, and he was wet from the top of his head to the tip of his toes, and sweat, hot. It was terrible. I said, I didn't think I'd like that.
They did start to air condition them there after a while,
Oh,
though.
really?
Yeah.
These were not air-conditioned roses, that's for sure. But it was hard, it was hard work for people. I'm sure it was low pay, and it was not all that healthy, I don't believe. But it made a lot of jobs. And a lot of jobs went away when all those places closed down.
Hey, one of the things I'd wanted to ask you guys too, teachers. Teaching is a profession that's at a shortage. Yeah, it seems like it always runs. There's too many people in it, and then there's not enough people. And right now, there's not enough people in the teaching profession. But what teachers had the biggest impacts on your lives, do you feel?
Well, I can tell you.
Where to start?
Where to start? We had good teachers. We had good teachers then.
Mrs. Winship was one of them.
A lot of older teachers.
Yeah, dedicated people.
What did she teach? What did she teach?
She taught Latin.
Latin. Wow.
She's a Latin teacher.
Yeah, that was a lot
I
of
remember
fun.
her because I had a job as a principal, and I'm trying to think what school it was in. It was up north someplace. And I looked up and she walked in. Just walked in to congratulate me. I couldn't get over that.
Who was that?
Eleanor Winship.
Really?
Miss Winter.
Good for that.
Miss Winter.
The one that got me was Harry Foltz.
Yeah.
He got me too.
He was a
Tough bird.
Marine sergeant. He was all discipline.
I have a wonderful story about Harry Foltz and Ronnie Miles.
No, I don't think.
Ronnie Miles was a little shit. Ornery as hell. That's all I can say. And I was one day in this English class, I was sharpening my pencil. I've told this story 1,000 times, maybe you've heard of it 500. And Hoot comes along and he gooses me with a pencil. And I jumped and made a little, a small remark. Like, what are you doing? And Harry Foltz looked at me with his stern Marine sergeant look, and he says, out on the steps, boy. I said, what? He's the one that caused all this. On the steps. Now, I said, okay, so I went out and I sat on the steps outside of this classroom, which was adjacent to Helen Laughlin's.
Oh, yeah.
So So as I was sitting on the steps outside Helen O'Loughlin's room, Helen O'Loughlin comes out and says to me, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "Well, running miles goosed me while I was sharpening my pencil, and I made some noise." And Mr. Foltz told me to go sit on the steps. And she said, "Well, you go down to the principal's office right now." But Mr. Foltz said, I said, "Go down to the principal's office." We're not arguing. So I went down to the principal's office. I'm headed down to the principal's office, and I get down there, and the principal says to me, "What are you doing here, boy?" This was J. Walter Gillis. You remember him?
Yes.
A very stern fellow. And I said, "Well, I was sharpening my pencil." And Ronnie Miles came up behind me and pushed me with a pencil. And I maybe made a little twerp, I don't know. But anyway, Mr. Foltz told me to go sit on the steps. So I went out and sat on the steps, and Miss O'Loughlin came along and asked me what I was doing, and I explained it all to her. Just like I explained it to you, and she told me, "Go down to the principal's office." So I went down to the principal's office, and J. Walter Gillis said, after I explained this story, "Go back and sit on the steps." So just as I'm going back to sit on the steps, guess who I see coming hot-footed down the hall? Harry Beware, Foltz. "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, you know, I was told to sit on the steps." "Well, Miss O'Loughlin told me blah, blah, blah." I went through the whole story. I said, but Mr. Gillis said for me to go back and sit on the steps. And Harry, that's about here. I've been backed up. Anyway, so I didn't sit on the steps more than a minute. Here comes Helen O'Loughlin again. "I told you to go to the principal's office." So I went through the whole rigmarole with her one more time, and she quietly went in her room and shut up.
And after that happened, the 12 Days of Christmas song was spawned.
The pitiful part of it was she was a very fine person and a very good acquaintance of mine, because she was kind of the dean of women or something like that, and had the responsibility, if you were coming to school tardy, you had to report to her, and she had to give you a pass. Well, I was her most important client. And I would go in there just about every, 2 or 3 times a week and get my pass. And it was funny because she was giving people hell like you would be, blah, 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 you gotta get to school on time, blah, 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 all of this. And she'd go, "Good morning, Joe." She likes me.
You know, one thing I think a lot of people don't realize what have you, there's a lot of football players that was also in the chorus and in the plays and what have you. For instance, P.D. Leeds here had one of the starring roles in the King and I. What was it? Holland.
I was the captain of the Pinafore.
Oh, there you go.
Holland.
And a mighty good captain too.
Yeah. Holland was in there. There was about 4 or 5 people in there. And everybody said, "Well, what are you doing this for?" And the answer came out and said, "All the girls are in chorus."
I did not know that.
That's good reason. That's good reason.
I have a Principal Gillis story. Occasion when I was in the equipment room, I would go over to Chuck Saradka's office and have a cigarette. Now,
you were bold.
I know this was not a good thing to do, but I did, and Chuck always welcomed me in there, you know. And I had the misfortune one day, that was also where Mr. Gillis had his cigarette.
Oh,
And
you spoke to J. Walter.
and well, not for long. And he wanted to know what I was doing there, and told me that he did not ever want to see me in there again. And I got out of there faster than you could run, because I was afraid I was going to be
Excommunicated.
doomed.
And his father was on the school board.
No, he wasn't.
I've got to go. I've got
No, he
to
wasn't.
Okay.
reception.
Can I ask you one last question here before, and nicknames. Did you guys have nicknames?
Anybody got a nickname?
They called you Hoot.
Yeah.
That's who's always been who.
Any other nicknames? There's kind
Duck.
of Duck.
Duck.
Duck, who?
Dutch.
Dutch.
I don't know. He was such a gentleman.
Call me Trojan.
They called you the Trojan horse?
Yeah.
I run like it,
Well,
I was named Duck because I spent a lot of summers in the swimming pool out in Kitchell Park.
it's because that's where all the girl lifeguards are.
I took up swimming big time. When I went to college at SIU in Carbondale, you had to go through all these different physical things your freshman year, and swimming was one of them where they would test you. I come within 2 seconds of the school record in a 50-yard dash in swimming.
Really?
The coach says, I want you on the swim team. Well, between school and spending 4 hours in the pool a day, I said, no, I'll pass on that.
Becomes a different life.
This guy right here, I don't know how many medals that he's got for being a champion in swimming and national.
I'm still getting the master's.
Really?
Yeah,
How many you got, Dutch?
I've been, I don't know, I have no idea.
This guy here, when he hit the
I've been
water,
very lucky.
when he hit the water, his feet actually went into fins.
One thing you can remember from Dutch
Well, that would have been,
the fact that he was always brown as a berry. He never got any whiter than he is right now.
He was a tennis player.
Sorry, I got it.
okay, while you're going, Jack, I want to, guys, each one of you, I got one of these for you. And basically, when I was the head varsity coach, what I did at the end of each year, or when I waited till everybody graduated, and then the seniors, I would always give them a cup, a Theresa tumbler that had a panther paw on it. All right, and kind of established a fraternity, a special little fraternity of people that, hey, as time goes on, they see that you had one of these cups, hey, you play football for Pana, and I wanted you guys to have one, each have one of these. So, and that holds beer just as well as it holds anything else, as well as it holds milk. We got, so. Okay, well, guys, there's not, I don't know that I have a whole lot more I can pick your brains with, but I appreciate, we've been going on, looks like an hour and 10 minutes or whatever. It's been a quick hour and 10 minutes. I appreciate the heck out of you guys coming here. And if you guys are in town, you come in town, go over to First National Bank and please look me up and let's talk some more about Pana history and that type of stuff if you would. And but
That's another thing about Pana. We only had one bank.
Down there.
one bank?
It started when we were here.
People's Bank started when you were here. First National was down, and the building has just got down next to it. That was the P and Hurst store in the Penwell building at one time. It was in bad shape.
It's sad because I like that First National Bank. It was a pretty fine building.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was.
It was, but it wasn't very big.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have a rough time fitting everybody in that place now. So, but it was. I remember going in there when I was really little, and the granite and that type of stuff.
Did I?
It's pretty.
Accused me of stealing 50 cents from People's Bank.
If I accused you, you probably did.
No, there's no question about that.
No.
I didn't find any evidence of it, however.
Guys, what I'll do is I'll make you a DVD, and I will get your addresses or whatever. If I've got a sheet of paper here, if you guys wouldn't mind writing your addresses on it, and I will mail you a copy of this DVD that you can have. Pass along to your families if you want, whatever. Or if you want a copy, tell me about it, and I'll send you an extra copy too. Okay?
Really? How about that?
Once Joe got going there, I was